welcome to the show. It's a
Hi, thank you so
it's
much for having me.
it's amazing. It's epic. I mean, what better way? What better way to have a cool evening with someone as cool as you? You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to
Absolutely.
get to know you and chat.
Perfect. Perfect. So, digging straight. Yeah, let's dig in here and tell me where does this passion for acting started? Like, where does the dream begin?
Yes, okay. So it's kind of a funny story.
Mm.
I actually never planned on being an actress. It very much fell into my lap. I grew up as a dancer, and I love to sing. Performing arts has always been in my blood. But I actually went to school for microbiology.
Oh, okay.
And yes, yes. And I was going to go do my doctorate in Atlanta. That was the plan. I was accepted to go in the fall of 2017. And very randomly, I started photo doubling. I photo doubled for someone in the winter of
Mm.
2016. And so photo doubling is where you're shot from like the back. You look enough like the actor or actress that if they can't be there on a certain day, it also, generally speaking, costs a lot more to have
Yeah.
the actor on set. So they'll use a photo double, or if it's a child, they'll use a photo double. Anyway, I was photo doubling for an actress, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Um, so I sent my cheerleading photo directly to the casting directors. And
Mm.
if you are familiar with how the industry works at all, that is a big no-no. That's not how that works. Um,
Okay.
but I did it because I had no idea.
Yeah, of course.
And then a few months later, I had actually just got back from LA. It was the day I got back from LA, the first time I had ever been for a makeup seminar. And I decided to check my junk mail for some reason. And I had an email from
Mm.
one of the casting directors in Winnipeg, and he is very lovely. He is very much a character.
Okay.
And so this email, I can hear his voice now thinking about it, but he goes, confirming your audition for the role of Claire White in the feature film Break My Heart a Thousand Times, which is what it was called at the time. Now it's called I Still See You. And I was like, oh my God, what? So I went because he wasn't asking, he was telling me to be there. And I showed up and I got the role. And so that was my first movie, my first audition. It was a Lionsgate film. You can watch it on Netflix. And we just went from there. And now I'm here.
I love it. That's
Yeah,
so
thanks. It
cool.
was wild. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, such a ride.
Yeah.
like a sweet. Like the whole changes, and it just took like one
Mhm.
thing to just pop
Yeah.
out and.
I'm a I'm a big believer in not necessarily that things happen for a reason,
Mm.
but that the universe has ways of guiding us in the direction that's
Oh yeah.
best for us or what we're meant to do. And I do believe that if you ignore those signs, eventually the universe kind of slaps you in the face with something.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And I think this was it for me. I'm a very artistic person, but I never believed that I was good enough to make a career of it. And I think this was the universe's way of
Yeah.
being
Oh yeah.
like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
here you go, here's your one, so that this is possible for you,
Mm.
and now the hard work begins, kind of thing.
Absolutely. No. Yeah. I
Yeah.
do. I do believe that we all come to this world for something, but of course, it's up to
Hmm.
us to discover what is that something.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, and about what you mentioned, I mean, I do. Uh, I would say yeah that I'm a let's say like a 70% believer that things happen for a reason. Because
Sure. Yeah.
for example, I mean, when I started this platform, it was just an idea. Then later on, in
Hmm.
the place that I worked, they fired me.
Oh
Uh, yeah,
no. Been
yeah,
there, feels
yeah,
real. Yeah.
yeah. Like they fired me and
Yeah.
everything. And
Yeah.
after that, the moment that I'm walking out the building, cursing at them, of course,
Hmm.
I receive a message from this actress that I sent a message a couple of days before to see, like, let's see what happens. And then she was like,
Sure.
I love the idea, let's make it happen. And boop, that's clicked.
Nice. There you go. And it's exactly that, right? It's like sometimes it takes something unfortunate or, life-changing, hopefully not too unfortunate, but life-changing,
Yeah.
that sends you in the direction that you're meant to be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So time went by,
hmm
and tell me, like, what were some of the challenges that you had when you were recently making those first steps in your acting career?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say my biggest challenge, booking your first audition is not normal.
Mm.
And I think, in my first year of acting, I booked three things, which is
Wow.
again usually not how that goes.
Yeah.
And I think I don't want to say I got cocky, because I don't think I got cocky, but
Okay.
I think I believed it was going to be like an upwards trajectory. I was only going to get busier and busier. And so I was still living in Winnipeg at the time, and I was booking somewhat consistently for someone who had just started. And I kind of had some life stuff happen in 2018. This was 2017 that I started acting. 2018,
Yeah.
I also got fired from a job, had some other stuff go on. And that was when I decided to move to Vancouver. And so I thought, I was like, yes, like this is it. Like we're only going up from here.
Totally.
And I moved to Vancouver, and I didn't work for almost 2 years, which is like every actor kind of goes through this period where they don't work for a while, and they're like, oh my God, I have made a grave mistake. And that was that was the hardest thing for me. Was the hardest thing as an actor is believing that the work that you're putting out is good enough.
Yeah.
And you also never know when or if you're going to work again. So anytime you wrap a project, it's like this bittersweet thing of like, what's next and when is it going to be and how patient do I have to be? So it was definitely a learning curve in just kind of accepting what is and being present. But yeah, the not knowing when you're going to work next is the hardest part for sure.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Absolutely. Now, before we continue, let me just close the door real quick. Give me one
Sure,
second.
yeah, no
One
problem.
of my dogs is like, I'm about to bark, and I'm like, don't you dare.
You're like, no.
Yeah, give me just 1 second.
All good.
There you go. Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. I'll make sure to edit this, so we're fine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Now, okay, let's continue. So, right. So tell me, like, focusing here a little bit in your acting career. I mean, like, how you prepare a character. Now, I understand, of course, that depends on the role, but what are, let's say, usually kind of the first steps, or how you introduce, so you can start into this process?
Totally. So something that I'm learning now that I've been working quite a bit the last year, I guess. Yeah. You learn more about your character every day, the same way that you learn about yourself every day. But when I first get, like, when you have an audition, they're called sides. So when you first get the sides, the first thing I do is I read it through 10 times. I don't make any notes. I just read it. At that point, I usually have a good understanding of like what the scene is actually about, not from any specific character point of view, not from my point of view, but just what is actually happening in the scene. At that point, I find what I call the key line. This is not my thing, by the way. This is Amy Linden, I believe. She's an acting coach. Her book's really good. If any actors are listening, I really like her method. It's like 15 steps to breaking down an audition. And I think the other thing too is you find what works for you. I think that's another one of the harder things about being an actor, is that what works for someone might not work for you. So you have to really just go to different classes and do different techniques and figure out what's going to be best. For me, this is what's best. So read it 10 times, figure out what the scene's actually about. Then I go through and I find what Amy Linden calls is the key line. So it can be your line or a different character's line, but it's just a line that really encompasses what that scene is about.
Okay.
Then I like to break it down into the beginning, the middle, and the end. And those points are where the information changes. So that's where your character is going to have an emotional shift. Those are kind of the biggest things that I do. I also, this is like actor 101. I find like the overall objective and the scene objective. So it's what your character wants overall, and then what your character wants in the scene, which lends itself to the overall objective. That's kind of how I break it down. Then the next thing I need to do is relate. So you can call this substitution. Some people do. But I find, like based on kind of the emotional state of the character and what they want in the scene, what in my life mirrors that. And so I will find the similarities and the differences in that. That is what makes me able to connect to the scene and connect to the other character. Another thing I will do is, depending on what the scene is about, again, if I'm not finding something that I'm like personally able to relate to, I will think about it in the other character's perspective and how someone in my life might be similar to that character.
Yeah.
I'll use imaginary circumstances, but yeah, that's the biggest thing for me. And sometimes it's super easy. Sometimes you're like, man, I've lived this 10 different times in 10 different ways, no problem. But sometimes it's not that easy. And in that case, I will work with my acting coach. He is able to, his name is John Emmett Tracy. He's on Yellowstone. This man, I have the utmost respect and love and gratitude for him. He has completely changed my career. But anyway, he will help me out. I find acting for me, any art really, but acting, I do way better when I've collaborated with someone. It helps to get me out of my head. So it helps me to see things in a different perspective. But if I'm really struggling with something, I will go to him or, another friend, another acting friend, and kind of come up with some different ideas and kind of take a look at it with some fresh eyes, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of my process in terms of auditioning. Once I've got the role, you really have to figure out who the character is at their core, and that is a journey that can sometimes take the whole shoot. But you have to, and it's very interesting, like even just reading the text, you can see or imagine what the character is like, and then you can think about, okay, what makes someone like this? What's the psychology behind that? And you can create scenarios and backstory. And I think that's the most fun part about acting, is like creating this entire person and then mirroring it to your life so that you're able to bring them to life.
I love it.
Yeah, thanks.
That's amazing. I love it. Now, what has been the funniest or worst audition you ever had?
Oh man. Okay. I have two. I thought about this question. I've got two. So one's funny and one just made me want to crawl inside myself and die. Okay. So the funny one, it was for this horror movie called Seance. It is on Shudder. You can watch it on Shudder for sure. Maybe somewhere else, but it's quite good. It was filmed in Winnipeg, so like lots of my friends are in it, which is really nice. But I was auditioning for kind of the like lead mean girl. And the first scene, it's the first scene of the movie, so this isn't spoiling anything. But the first scene, they are doing it takes place at like an all girls boarding school, and the first scene is a seance. So the character's name is Alice, I believe, and she's like holding a candle, and she's kind of telling like the ghost story, and she's like, this is where she died, right here in this bathroom. Obviously I didn't do it like that, but she's holding, you know, the whole like ghosty, like when you've got the like this kind of situation, the light coming from underneath.
Totally.
So some casting directors like props. I personally love props. I think if I have something to hold in my hands, it helps me come a little bit more alive, gets me out of my head a little bit. Some casting directors hate props. This was the day that I learned that this casting director hated props. So I come in with my candle and I'm doing the scene, and whatever, we cut, it's good. And she goes, is that a coffee? And I was like, no, it's a candle. And she goes, yeah, that doesn't read at all. And I was like, okay. So I was like, great, all right, well, I will never do that again. The other worst audition, this was all in person too. So now that it's, you know, post-COVID, most auditions are on self-tape, which I personally really like. That is a very divisive thing in the acting community right now, but that's another topic. So this is in person. I go in. It was super busy. I had like 2 auditions the day before, and then I got this one super late that night, and it was in person the next day, like less than 12 hours. It was a 9-page audition. Like it was big. It was also for Hallmark, and it's you learn as an actor as well, depending on the network. Like it is all truthful and grounded, but there are different styles for different networks. So Hallmark has its own kind of style. So sometimes I struggle with Hallmark auditions, truthfully. And so whatever, I get this audition. It's for like the sister of the lead kind of thing. And I go in and I do it. The casting director cuts before I'm even done the first scene. And he goes, Danika, come here for a second. And I'm like, God. Oh no. And so they record their auditions, right? Because they have to send them into production and whatever. So I think he's going to show me something on the monitor. And he goes, I don't think we're going to get there today. You should have done way more work on this. You should have been able to mine out more emotions than this. You need to take way more training before I ever call you back in this room again. And I was like, okay. And I like turned around, and before I even got out the door, I was just crying. And it was crazy to me because this man had cast me in like 3 other things, and I was like, what? Like, what happened? I'm so confused. And like, maybe it wasn't my best audition, but I didn't think it was like terrible.
Yeah.
And I just cried. I just cried the whole way. I was like, I hate this. I'm never doing this again. And yeah, that was like my worst like feeling ever after an audition. But yeah.
That's crazy. You know, I've heard some stories that for some cast directors, they don't like props because sometimes they would, for example, let's say that the scene applies a gun, and some people would bring like a fake gun to the whole, you know, and it's scary, you know, that it could scare people. That's pull out a fake gun. Yeah.
That's a no. Like if you were doing it in person and it was like a weapon, for sure not. If they wanted you to have a weapon, they would give one to you. I lately have been getting a lot of auditions where I have to have a gun. So I bought like, it's a replica like 45 caliber, but it's like bright orange. There's no moving parts, and I'm on tape. So it's like, this is all pretend. This is all pretend. Everyone is safe. But that's no.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Scary, but hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, now, so let's say one day I call you and I tell you that I want to become an actor. Now I don't have any experience at all, like zero.
Sure.
I mean, I only had one role back in high school for one play, one line. I screw it up, so that's not on my resume for sure. Yeah, no. But so based on what you know, what advice would you give to me in order to start this journey on
if you were
directing?
For sure, if you were first starting, I think the best thing is to get into an acting class. I think one of the big things for me and a lot of other actors is just getting comfortable being vulnerable in front of other people, in front of other strangers. That's still something that I struggle with at times, depending on the content. But also just getting like comfortable in your body, comfortable being on camera. That's a big thing for a lot of people, even a lot of working actors. I know they'll have, not that I've personally ever experienced, but they're very concerned about what they look like on camera. And so you can't be afraid to be ugly. Like you can't be afraid to have snot running from your nose if it's an emotional scene. Like I think that's the biggest thing. And that's also what's going to book you work, is just being so comfortable and confident in who you are. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's true. Like we're always, I think nowadays, mental health and emotion, especially for men, is something that is being more talked about. But in your day to day, you could be having the worst day of your life and you still have to go to the grocery store and, oh, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Like, so it's just getting really comfortable dissolving that. So that would be my first piece of advice would be get into an acting class, even if it's not like a good class, like just getting in there and getting comfortable, breaking down your walls a bit. And the next thing would be just get on set. That's where you're going to learn the most. So like student films, even doing crew for other things, like if there's non-union crew, like anything like that, just being on set is where you're going to learn the most, no matter what you're doing. And then my third piece of advice, once you've got the experience, maybe you've got some footage from doing some student films, find an agent, and a good agent. When I say a good agent, I don't mean top agency, I don't mean big agent, I mean agents that believe in you, are really good at communicating with you, who support you. That is such a huge thing, because being with a top agency, like frankly speaking, I was with a top agency in Vancouver, and I got 3 auditions in a calendar year. That was that year that I was telling you I didn't work, which is like I get more in a week now. And they wouldn't even respond to my emails. And it makes sense because I wasn't one of their top billing clients, and they're busy, and that's fine. But that's the thing, is that they're busy because they're a top agency. They really only have they only have so much time in the day, and that's going to go to the people who are making the money. It makes sense. But my agency now, they're more of a boutique agency. They're quite selective about who they work with, which is really nice. And they are so supportive. They're 2 powerhouse women that back me on everything that I do. They talk me down when I'm spiraling. They've supported me on walking out of a project, which I've never done. But I've had situations where, I could have and maybe should have, but saw it through, and they were like, whatever you want to do, we back you 100%. Just finding a really good team and a really good support system. That's the most important part, I would say.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm sure. I promise that once I get my Oscar as Best Actor, I'll mention you on my thank you speech.
Oh, thanks. Much appreciated.
I love it. I love it. Now, let's say that one day Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus, you name it, they get in contact with you and they tell you that they got this idea for a film. So it goes. All of the actors you have played at the moment will gather. So all of those characters will gather to celebrate your birthday. Tell me, what will be the name of that film?
I thought about this one. It would be Sad Girls Club. Sad Girls Club.
Okay. What would it be? Would it be like comedy, drama, horror, perhaps? What would it be?
Oh man, I think it would be probably drama, maybe dramedy. I've found all of the characters I've played, except for like two, maybe one or two. Like lately I've been playing the villain, which has been very cool, or the anti-hero, which is, great. But they've all had really tragic or awful things happen to them that have brought them to where they are. They're all very strong characters. They're all figuring it out. They're just trying to make it right. They're trying to make it right. And so I think it would almost be like, oh my God, what was it called? With Margot Robbie, she's Harley Quinn, but not Birds of Prey?
Yeah,
Birds of Prey?
Yeah.
Birds of Prey. It'd be like that. It'd be like all these kind of like slightly unhinged women trying to just trying to be better, just trying to figure it out, trying to make it right, make things fair. Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
And so if you could describe your whole acting career on a drink, how would you do it? Now you could choose one that it's already been made, or you can create your own.
Sure. I think it would be, a lot of my characters like the finer things in life, and a lot of them have some vices. So I would say probably like a French 75, or like a really nice glass of red wine.
And how would you call your drink?
Ooh, okay. Well, the French 75 is the French 75. It's the one with like champagne and like it's fancy. What would I call it? I think it would be maybe something like femme fatale, or like death by like lust, or something like that. My characters are lately have been very decadent, we'll say. None of them are out yet, so yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, like, my last question here is, what motivates you? We all have those days that we basically just want to quit. That we get into this toxic bubble, let's say, in which you start to question yourself. You start to think that it's been a waste of time. I can go all night, but but like, usually what pulls you out of that bubble, so you can continue back again on this journey that you have been creating for so many years now.
Yes. There's two things. One of them, and then the biggest thing, I guess, is I feel like now, especially like in the age of especially after COVID, but like dating apps and social media, and everything is so false. Like, true connection feels so hard to come by these days. And I think people are very cruel to each other because of that, because it's so easy to, I don't know, forget is the right word, but it's so easy to ignore other people's emotions because the connection is so lacking. Everything is so fleeting. And it's really hard to process your own emotions in that. And so my biggest reason that I want to be an actor is that I want to tell stories that make people feel connected to someone, make them feel seen, make what they've experienced feel real and tangible, and to help them heal, and you know, to hopefully inspire people to have empathy for others. The other reason is, you know, growing up, I always wanted to be a dancer, but performing arts, like I mentioned, was my biggest thing, and I really struggled growing up, as we all do, but thinking that, you know, I was good enough, or that I could do something creative and artistic, and that people would think it was worthwhile. And so I didn't. I kind of, you know, gave up on that dream from a very young age. I decided I was going to do the safe thing and go to school, do academia, and, you know, like I was saying, to bring this full circle, I got a nice slap in the face from the universe when I was 25 that kind of gave me a nudge in this direction. But I'm really doing it for little me and anyone else that feels like, you know, they don't have it in them to do whatever it is that they want to do, but that, you know, it's going to take hard work, and it's going to take time and patience and a lot of tears.
Absolutely.
But you can do it. There's room for everyone in this world to do what they want to do. But yeah, I do hope that, because I was 25 when I started acting, that, you know, people who feel stuck in their 9 to 5 or in a career that they don't like, you know, I know that 25 is still relatively young, but I'm more inspired by people who are older, who make the switch and do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I hope that I can, you know, inspire someone to realize that, like, it's not too late to do what you want to really do.
I mean, I will drop this mic. Of course I won't, but I will drop it, basically. You know, perfect way to end this. Legendary. I love it. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I love what you do. It is super cool. It's definitely inspiring, and also the fact that you discovered it later on, that you have been through so many things here and there, but still you managed to continue pursuing it. I mean, we all know that pursuing your dreams, or pursuing specifically something that makes you happy, it's tough, you know. But the fact that you are still doing it, that you are still pursuing it, I mean, that's impressive, and also that's kind of a living proof that dreams can come true. And I love the fact that you're still doing it. Keep pushing, keep rocking, because I'm super sure that at some point our next conversation might be, where can I put my next award on the wall, because it's already full now. You know, something like that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I also want to thank those who watched this video. Thanks so much. If you are listening to this, perhaps on Spotify or Apple Podcast, make sure to go follow Danika, like right now. I mean, the video's over. So what I would suggest is for you to go follow her. I mean, let's make her viral. #Team Danika. She's amazing.
Thank you.
And again, have an incredible evening, an incredible rest of the week, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. See you soon.